everybody. So here's the name of the person that their files I'm going to be working on today. It's Miss Lauren Bush. Thank you for sending in your image for me to work. Lauren sent me in a nice image of a senior boy, and so we're going to work that image right now. So it's this image here. Double click it and it opens up into Adobe Camera Raw. I've said it before, if you are working with Lightroom, a lot of times converting raw files in Lightroom and you're using Lightroom just for that, great. But if you're using Lightroom, for example, to catalog all boys with hats and blue shirts, then you're using Lightroom the right way. But if you have some other type of filing system, like me, I file everything by the date and the person's name. Well, then the best way to do that filing system is actually Adobe Bridge. Bridge is much faster, much cleaner, and it gets you to Adobe Camera Raw just like Lightroom does. So that you're looking at this raw image straight off the camera. First thing I do, I always run my default preset. Now, if you notice, that's a big difference. Look what it did to the greens. Look what it did, like in his hair area. Look what it, a little vignette. So even just this one little preset makes a huge, huge difference. Now, again, I'm not sure what camera she's using. I could look it up. I guess I could look at the metadata and look it up, but I'm not. But I'm just going to say that it looks a little blue, and that is not anything that Lauren did wrong. That's just probably the camera, and my preset is mine set for a Canon 1DX Mark II, and this is probably done with some other camera. And so you just would need to tweak that a little bit. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to tweak out the blue, add a little bit of yellow, makes it way more fun to look at. There we go, right somewhere in there, I think. Now, I find his skin tone's just a little too hot, so I'm going to take down the highlights, take down the whites a little bit. Let me tweak the blacks a little bit into here, and tweak the shadows about into here. Clarity, just a little less. And one of the tricks that I do with skin is I know that skin hangs out in these three areas: red, orange, and yellow. And it doesn't matter, which race you are. It's always red, orange, and yellow, okay? So never is it green, aqua, blue, purple, or magenta, okay? So watch, I'll show you what I'm talking about. If I move magenta saturation in and out, look, you don't see anything happening to the image. But, put that to 0. If I do that with orange, watch what happens. Look what's happening to his skin. He's flashing at us, okay? And that is because orange is a dominant feature color of skin. So if you want the skin to be a little bit more orangey or tanny, you can crank that orange up just a tad bit. Then in luminance, what happens is you darken and lighten these areas, okay? Which, of course, you could always go too far. Look how weird that is, okay? But if you find that he needs just a little teeny bit, like in the orange area, I think he could come down just 1 or 2 maybe, okay? Just to add just a little bit more. And same thing with the yellow, that could come down just a tad bit. And it makes it just a little tiny, it's very subtle, a little bit better. Also, while you're in here, because there's so much green in this image, you can take and darken those green areas or lighten those green areas, because there is no green in skin. But you can also saturate those green areas, because everybody likes some really nice green areas. So that's another cool thing. All right, all of my portrait images have somewhat of a vignette, so I always like to check that to see how much of a vignette, and in this case, I like it right about there. Okay, nice. All right, so that image is done, and now what we're going to do is we're going to convert that image into a workable JPEG by going over to Tools, Photoshop, Image Processor, and it's a four-step process. 1, coming from Bridge. 2, it's going into the same location or wherever you want. 3, it's going to convert to JPEG or a PSD or TIFF, whatever you want to do. I'm not going to resize it. I'm going to run my workflow from my workflow action set, my portraiture first run, And what that does is, even on boys, it adds just a little bit of softening to the skin. So with boys, I don't like as much, but I do like it a little bit because everybody can benefit from a little bit of skin softening. So once that runs, open that image up in Photoshop, and now let's start working it. Like before, I always like to zoom in on the eyes. That's one of the first things. And when I zoom in on an outside image of the eyes, I look at the nose while I'm looking at the eyes. And I notice that the right side of the nose is brighter than the left side of the nose, telling me that the main source of light is coming from the right side. So if you're going to have catch lights in the eyes, you need to make sure that the main catch light is on the upper right hand quadrant, which is where it is in this particular case. But of course, you've got a hat on, and that hat does disguise some of that. So I'm going to take, using my dodge tool, mid-tones, 100% exposure, protected tones off, I'm going to make this one a little bit brighter, okay? But notice that this one is kind of wimpy. So I'm going to use my clone tool, normal mode, opacity 100%, and I'm going to clone, get my brush about the right size, option, click this catch light, and I'm going to move and put it in this eye so that I have, the catch lights are the same, okay? At that point, I'm going to use my paintbrush tool, normal mode, 100% black, and I'm going to get rid of any other crazy light flying around the black part of the eye. Like that. See? And I'm going to also make the black part of the eye nice and deep and dark and black. Okay, which makes the eye way more fun to look at. Now, I assume what I'm seeing here on the left side of the eye is somewhat of a reflector. Now, this is a judgment call. When I'm doing high school seniors, you know, typically I got, 30, 40 images sometimes to retouch of a single senior. The fact that this little catch light, from showing up from the reflector is in the eye is immaterial. But if on this image, I'm gonna want to make it as perfect as possible since I'm only working one image. So I am going to totally get rid of it. I'm gonna make all of the eyeball nice and middle part black. This one's a little more tricky because it has to follow the same roundness as it did elsewhere because I'm literally adding that in. And now I got just a little piece of that reflector catch light in the lower left hand side. I'll use my dodge tool, mid-tone, 100%, protected tones off, and I'm going to add that little swoosh to the opposite part of the eye. Which again, I don't know if you watched some of my other videos, but this does and can happen naturally, okay? But, man, you got to have your light in exactly the right spot. So I find it much faster just to add that in Photoshop. Hold down your Option or Alt key and you can dodge in that to where it looks more natural. Burn, excuse me, not dodge. Burn in. Oop, went too far. All right. And I'm going to flip over to the burn tool for just one moment in highlight mode because I feel like my swoosh is a little too bright. There's all kinds of ways to take that swoosh back down, but I'm going to do it in highlight mode. Just like that, just a little bit. Just take it down just a little bit. There, much better. Okay, and let me just back off all the way. Yes, that is not objectionable. All right, back into the eyes. Healing brush. I don't know if that's a zit right there underneath his hat, but it's driving me insane, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that just like that. Okay, so now that I'm all zoomed in, I'm going to fix those little bumps underneath here. Now, again, this and this happens naturally in humans. However, somewhere along the line, we decided that it was unacceptable. However, double however, is on boys and men, it is more acceptable than on babies and women. So, but that ain't crazy, huh? So, the way I handle that is this. I totally get rid of it using my healing brush in one swipe. Without lifting up my pen, I get everything gone. Now it's gone, and now I hit Shift, Command, or Control, F. And it brings up Fade. And now I can fade back the last step that I did. And I typically fade back to 50%. So that the line is still there, it's only 50% as bright as it was before. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side of the eye. One swipe, I'm going to get rid of all of this. And then Shift, Command or Control F, and brings up fade. And I'm going to put 50% back. And so now it's there, but it's just not so bright as it was before. All right, I'm going to go ahead, since I don't know whether he likes those, I'm going to go ahead and take them off. Since I did not have that conversation with him, and I don't like them, so I'm going to get rid of them. So I'm going to get rid of all his little bumps in his skin, little redness around his nose. All right, very good. Now, his teeth got a little bit of yellowness going on. The one trick, I have this set up as an action to where I just click one button and it does it, but the slow way of doing it is you go Image, Image, Adjust, Hue and Saturation, okay? Change it from Master to Yellow, and then click on a tooth. And it makes sure that that particular yellow has been selected. Forget everything you see as far as skin. Take the saturation down and add a little bit of lightness. Now I know that his skin is weird as, oh my God, you've screwed up the image. But click OK. Then you click on your history palette and you make a snapshot with the little camera at the bottom of the history palette of what just happened. Okay? And you highlight that snapshot, and then you undo the hue and saturation and put the image back the way it was. Now, when you click on this brush with the little arrow, that's the history brush, what happens is wherever you paint, you're painting from this history state, which is the one where we took out all those yellows. So when I wipe the skin, the teeth go pure white. Now I find most of the time, and in this case, that it got too weird. It got gray. Okay, so let me undo that and reduce the opacity to, say, I don't know, 36%. And now you can get rid of the yellows without having that weird grayness and at whatever amount you want. Okay, so that was the slow way to do it. Like I said, I have an action that does that in one quick click. All right, so let's see. Any other bumps? Nope. Looking good. Looking good. All right, now here's another little trick that I'm gonna address in an action in another movie here pretty soon in the next few weeks. But I'm gonna go ahead and do it for you here. Notice, and this is caused by the hat. Notice that this area of the boy's face is brighter than this area of the boy's face. Why? Well, because he got a hat on. Okay, it's creating a shadow. That's what hats do. Okay, to address that, what I want you to do is Command or Control M to bring up curves. Okay, then with keeping your brain focused here, I want you to first click there and see where on the curve line is that amount of tonality. So it's kind of right here in this little area. Forget what happens here, but remember what this looks like while looking here. And when you push up, it gets brighter. So right about there, this now matched what this was, but this went up with it, okay? Click OK, go through the same process we did before. We click on History, the History palette. Now, instead of, to make it much faster, instead of making another history state and all this other good stuff, you can just put a little check, a little brush with an arrow next to this curves state and back up one. Now you're going to paint from the way it was right here in this curve state. Again, with the history brush, low percent opacity, like 38. It's at 38. And we're going to rub with a big brush right over this area that's dark. Boom. All right, I'm going to rub again. Boom. Just right here. Boom. Now it's starting to look like this top part of his face is now matching the bottom part of his face. Watch. Back off. Look at that. Look how his face is now all even again. So that is a really neat little trick for us, especially if you do lots of people with hats on. And then this little, all right, looking at the whole image, see this little bit of highlight coming through in the green? That is so easy to fix and makes the image, you know, your brain just pulls straight into that. To fix that, use your healing brush, click somewhere nearby, and just go ahead and add in a little bit of green blob like that. And by doing that, now see my brain isn't pulled into that. So I'm going to use my burn tool like I've done in many other videos, highlight mode 30%, and I'm just going to give that outside edge just a little bit of a burn just to bring your eyes right into my buddy here. And this guy don't really have a weight problem, so I'm not going to body morph him at all in Liquify. I'm not going to adjust his eyes because they look like they're the right size, but I will add a little bit of portraiture to him. So I'm going to click my action, perfect soft action, select the skin right in there. Okay. Now, with guys, see how, man, now he's looking feminine. Okay, that's unacceptable. So you have to just use a tiny, tiny percent. In this case, I'm going to use 10%. So it's just a very tiny amount. Add a little bit of warmth, yes. Add a little bit of contrast, yes. Do my levels adjustment like that. There. Okay. Before, after, I'm loving it. Okay, I think I'm going to call it. This image looks totally done to me. Good. Thank you so much, Lauren, for sending me this image. I hope you learned something. I hope I taught somebody else something. I hope this was beneficial. If anybody else would like for me to make a video for them like this, send me your files. We'll make one. Thank you much. Y'all have a great one. Bye-bye.